fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for two, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What is going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 163 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Geoff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at GeoffLambert77. We are live every Wednesday and Friday night on Facebook Live, Periscope, and YouTube, syndicated on all major podcast networks, and of course streaming in the Going For Two app for iOS and Android. We have a full house tonight for week one. Let's go around the room and meet my co-hosts. If you haven't met them yet, Gerson, we'll go to you first, man. Gerson, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. We're back. I mean, after COVID and all this bullshit for 2020, football, please save us.
Yes, definitely. And I know Gerson wanted to go quad box here, so let's go quad box. Get everybody on screen there. Tim, man, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm coming to you, as you see here, live from my downtown Dallas apartment. Not quite have the liquor selection of the Fantasy Tequila podcast over there. How you doing, G?
Doing good, brother. I missed you, man. Glad we're back.
Nice. And also joining us tonight, he comes on occasionally on the show. We got him for week one, Mr. Cash Game himself. Jason, what's up, Jason?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Look, I got into TikTok this year, right? And so I decided to finally get a TikTok Lite. So that's why you can see the head now. So we're good, guys. We're good to go.
All right, good stuff.
Confirmed, Jason does have a body.
Yeah, exactly. No floating head this year. Good stuff. All right, so we got a new segment this year. Let me go ahead and hit the drop.
The Weekly Rewind.
All right, so the rewind, once we get into the season, obviously we'll recap our plays from last week, what we missed on, what we didn't hit on, what we should have done. But since we have no games to talk about, let's talk about last night's game a little bit, Gerson. What do you think of last night's game, and how did it go? What stood out to you?
I was happy with it because, well, we got football back, but I thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked like that top 6 running back that we all thought he could be. And he is crazy because what he did yesterday was all on carries. He got 2 targets, didn't catch them, but it's crazy. I think Kansas City has a really good shot at repeating this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I took the over on the 100 yards, and he definitely hit that. I thought it'd be more through the passing game than it was through the running game, but obviously he did a lot in the running game as well. The only downside is he had 6 or 7 carries at the goal line, and he just couldn't punch it in there for his second touchdown. He looked kind of like Nick Chubb out there. I think that's kind of how Nick Chubb was last year. Tim, what are your thoughts on last night's game?
Yeah, it was ugly if you were a Texans fan until it was late. Obviously, I know a lot of people from Houston, but I was glad to see Clyde go out there and do his thing. I'll tell you one thing about Rewind is thinking about not just the year in football, but kind of what we've learned about DFS. And I feel like over the last year, I've spent a lot of time working on contest selection and game theory. So I'm really looking forward to applying that to NFL this year. Definitely.
Jason, we don't hear from you that much because you only make an occasional appearance on the podcast, man. What do you think of last night's game?
It was great. You guys should have seen my son. He grabbed a couple flags. Yeah, I didn't see the game until the fourth quarter of watching my son's flag football.
Nice.
Yeah, flag football.
Exactly everything.
Good stuff. All right, so we got a pretty packed slate. Of course, there's no teams on buys on the week one. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, Tim, I'm going to go to you first. We'll talk these top-tier quarterbacks here. Is there anybody this week that you think is worth paying up for?
Absolutely. I really like Lamar Jackson this week. I'm all over him. I'm going to have a lot of Lamar Jackson. I absolutely think he's worth paying for. There were multiple weeks last year where if you didn't have Lamar Jackson, you didn't really have a shot. And I think coming in this week, he's 8,100. You definitely have to pay for him on DraftKings. You can stack him with multiple guys, and I think he's in Pretty sure it's the highest over-under or total on the team total on the week. So you definitely want some of that. And I think there's just such a good chance of him going over 30 DraftKings points. You definitely want exposure. So I'm going to pay up for Lamar Jackson and a good number in my lineups.
Good stuff. Gerson, what about you? Is there anybody here that's worth paying up for besides Lamar Jackson?
I love Lamar Jackson, but like overall, I mean, his salary is the highest up there. So if after that tier it kind of goes down pretty dramatic, I mean, the second quarterback I would pay up for is Russell Wilson at $7,000. You know, he's probably going to be the second highest quarterback owned. Right now, he's coming about at 7%. But overall, great matchup against Atlanta, one of the worst defense, if not the worst defense this year. They did nothing to improve that defense. Absolutely nothing. Not through they drafted this cornerback out of Florida, I believe, Henderson, right? Yep. But I mean, the rookie cornerback first, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. That's not easy task, you know. But overall, I mean, I'm really Russell Wilson, but Lamar is the man. Like, he Action Jackson. He's so incredible. I just want to bring up a stat about him, if you don't mind. One of the craziest stats that I read about Lamar Jackson is that among quarterbacks, he ranked fourth in passing fantasy points, right? But subtract 20 receptions, and drafting Jackson last year was almost exactly like drafting Matt Ryan and Josh Jacobs, getting both of their production in one starting spot.
Wow. That's impressive.
That kind of upside every week, I'd be totally excited to play him, you know. He's going to cost you a penny, though, but there's value this week. We'll talk about them.
Yep, definitely. Jason, I know typically we pay down at quarterback for cash games, but if you're going to pay up for any of these guys, is there a quarterback you like for your cash games to pay up for?
Well, Tim kind of got me on Lamar Jackson because he said he was going to try and play him, maybe. And so I started to analyze and see if he was a good player or not. And I think he is a decent player. We have a lot of value at wide receiver, at running back, and you can fit him in, but you got to hope that he gets to get you that 25, 30-point game at 8,100. Yeah,
agreed. And Lamar Jackson is kind of in that top tier by himself because he's like literally more than $1,000 more than Russell Wilson is. He's kind of like the only top tier quarterback. You move down into that second tier with Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan. I do like Matt Ryan a little bit as well. I think if you're going to stack this game, I think it's a good game to stack. I think it's going to be a little bit back and forth. Matt Ryan at 6,700 is a pretty good option. He's got a lot of good weapons. He's got his Hayden Hurst. He's got his tight end now. He's got Ridley. Of course, we still got Julio there. Todd Gurley out of the backfield. I think he's got plenty of weapons there. And that Seattle defense is not what it used to be. So, especially because Ryan's at home. I don't know if it matters quite as much this year because there's no crowd. But he is better at home, better inside a dome stadium. So Matt Ryan is one that I kind of like there as well. Let's move down into the mid-tier here. And, Gerson, I'll go back to you. Give me some of your mid-tier quarterbacks that you like.
Is it because I have him highlighted and you want me to talk about him?
Yep, that's the one I want you to talk about. Because I got to hear it.
All right, so everybody that knows me, I'm the biggest Jimmy G hater. I think he's overrated. I think he's overpaid. I think Nick Mullen's better than him. That's how bad I hate him. But in 2 games with the Cardinals last year, he killed it, 370 yards. And 4 passing touchdowns with 75% completion rate. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And the Cardinals, they got Isaiah Simmons, but I don't expect Isaiah Simmons to put that defense over the top, like top 10 defense or anything. But a lot of people are going to be worried with their wide receivers, but in a Shanahan offense, you really can just step in and just do your role. And Jimmy G is a very conservative quarterback, and he should get to the end zone, and they have a 27-point implied total. I expect them to score in Arizona, and this is going to be a high-paced game. It's going to be one of my favorite. I think this game's going to go very low-owned, so it's going to be one of my favorite games to target. So Jimmy G is probably one of my favorite mid-tier quarterback this week.
All right, Tim, we'll go to you. You don't have Jimmy G on your list here, so who do you have as your mid-tier?
I actually do have Jimmy G on my list.
Oh, you do? A little bit further down. I see it now.
I don't want to skip over something real quick before we move on. And that's in the crazy year that 2020 has been. There are a few things that we can count on, right? And one of those things is Drew Brees at home. So before we move on, I want to talk about Drew Brees a little bit. I think he's going to go overlooked a lot on this slate because, as you mentioned, so many people are going to see Russell Wilson, they're going to see Matt Ryan, they're going to skip right over Drew Brees. So I think you have an opportunity to get him at or close to 5% ownership. And, you have to pay up for some of his stack options, but he averaged 25 points at home last year. He's always been good at home. And so I think if there's a week we obviously know you beat Tampa Bay through the air, right? It's hard to run on them. You beat them through the air. If they can mount any kind of a game, then I think that Drew Brees is going to keep throwing, and, he could easily surpass, be the QB1 and be 5% owned.
Yep, I agree with you. Jason, anybody you want to mention here in the mid-tier?
Yeah, but if I could leave like a little, fantasy armchair note. Guys, this year we're going to be mostly on DraftKings. All of our pricing is going to be DraftKings based. I mean, we will touch FanDuel here and there, but it's going to be DraftKings dominated most of it.
Agreed, yep.
To get back on Tim's point is, we got to think about these quarterbacks we're picking. We're going to stack them. So, Drew Brees he's a great play. You can stack him with Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. You can get that GPP upside. So I like that Drew Brees play. I don't know. Do you want to go down to mid-value or value tier? Is that what you want to go down?
Yeah, we'll let me do a couple more mid-tiers, and then we'll get down to those value guys. A couple guys that we hadn't talked about yet that I wanted to mention. So typically, especially in week one, I like to get those athletic running quarterbacks, and Josh Allen is kind of one of the cheaper ones that you can get there. He's playing against the New York Jets. I do think that Josh Allen at 6.5 is actually a pretty good play. Probably a very popular play as well. Stafford I had written down. I don't like Stafford quite as much without Kenny Golladay. I do think Stafford will still be good, but I loved Stafford, when Kenny Golladay was still going to play, but now he's likely going to be out. So Stafford's a little bit of a down tick for me, but I still do like him there. Let's go ahead and jump into those values now. Get down to those deep dive guys. And Tim, I'll go to you first. Who do you got?
Well, the first guy I want to talk about is Phillip Rivers, and he's the guy that I'm kind of pivoting my Stafford lineups into. I had a couple of Stafford lines, and I'm kind of transitioning those because I think Phillip Rivers is, the more I look at him, a better and better play. I think that they're going to, he's always throwing the ball, right, with the weapons that he has now, and I think he actually has an offensive line that's going to give him now time to stand up and throw the ball in the pocket, I think that he is somebody that, like I said, I think, 5,800 on DraftKings, is, again, probably going to go under-owned, has good stack options, and could easily 3-4x his value. So I think if you're looking for somebody that's a little cheaper than those mid-range guys without going all the way down, I think I think Jimmy G's right there, but I could see Phillip Rivers he's 6K, as kind of a pivot for similar price.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Gerson, who you got as some of your value guys?
I just want to mention another quarterback I was interested in the higher on the other tier. Kyler Murray, I like him, but he's 6,800, I believe, right? Yeah, 6,400. I know he could go back.
You're gonna have to explain it to me. I want to hear this.
Kyler Murray?
Yeah, please.
Okay, well, he did great against them last year, so why would that defense got weaker this year? I don't think their defense improved. They lost the Buckner, and that defense is lost their quarterback coach. Overall, they're going to be weaker. And he averaged 26 points and 23 points last year in two matchups. He's a rushing upside quarterback, and he did very well against the 49ers. It gave him a lot of problem because of his mobility. Even though Boza was hurt in one game, he still rushed for 67 yards and a touchdown, and then on a second game, he threw for 2 touchdowns, 241, and 34 yards rushing. He has a rushing upside. So I'm going to take Kyler Murray there, stack him with DeAndre Hopkins or Christian Kirk or Larry Fitzgerald. I think there's a better offense than the 49ers. I don't think the 49ers defense is going to be as strong as last year. That's just my opinion, though.
No, I will agree, and I think the loss of D-Buck is going to be a pretty painful one for us. I know we drafted a guy that's supposed to replace him, but you can't replace a guy like him with a rookie, so I do think we're going to have a little bit of trouble there. And then Bosa, he's healthy now, but he did have a bit of an injury in the preseason or the quote-unquote camp there, whatever they had there. So if that crops back up, it could be potential issues there for us as well. And you're right. I mean, Murray killed us last year. No denying that. So I agree. I think Kyler Murray can definitely be a good play there.
For my value quarterback, And if you're drinking water or eating something, please take it out of your mouth. It's good old Mitchell Trubisky. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Trubisky, he played. I don't know. Like we all know this. He almost lost his job to Nick Foles, but he won it. The coaches are giving him the confidence. They're trying to make the best out of it. Once you pass up on a guy like Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, you probably want to see let's see what this guy has, right? But he did reach 20-point mark last year 5 times, and he scored 33 points against the Cowboys. And then the following week after that, he went for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Lions. He's done very well versus the Matt Patricia defense. Overall, he's gotten 27 DraftKings points, 19 DraftKings points, and one of them was a 39 DraftKings point game where he threw for, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he rushed for 1 touchdown. So overall, he has rushing upside too, and his price is just so low. It's almost at $5,400. So I mean, he has Allen Robinson. He has Jimmy, and they've been saying that Jimmy Graham has been great in camp. They've been saying that he looks like the old Jimmy Graham. How many times have we heard that he looks like the old Jimmy Graham? And maybe he does look old. Old.
I think that's what they mean. Like he looks old.
Yeah, but Anthony Miller is still there. Anthony Miller is one of my breakout wide receivers. Yeah, he's healthy. Allen Robinson. I don't like David Montgomery, so I hope he doesn't play. I want Tariq Cohen back there so they can just pass the ball, dump off and stuff, and it'll raise Mitchell Trubisky value. And you get a good price on Robinson and Miller. So overall, you can do a pretty good stack and not pay up too much for your stack. And you can run it back with, we'll talk about him later.
Yeah, and Brian Clark on Facebook pointed out that he was actually in 2 Millie Maker winning lineups last year, so he's not as bad as people think he is. My beef with him is I wish sometimes he would run more. I feel like sometimes he tries to pass when he doesn't need to. Just run the ball, get some yards, and that gives us some more fancy points. But he makes some bad decisions sometimes. He just needs to take off and just run the ball every once in a while.
I agree.
Tim, you got a guy on your value list too that also might make some of us throw up a little bit. Who do you got for your value?
Yeah, man. Talk about another guy that's got a guy looking over his shoulder, and that's Ryan Fitzmagic. Obviously, you saw the Dolphins went out and drafted Tua. He's their future, but I think Fitz, he's just, is he 37 now? He's just in what I call YOLO mode, right? He's just going to go out there and have fun for the sake of it every last game he's got. So he played the Patriots pretty well last year. I think toward the end of the year, he was in one of the winning lineups. So, I mean, he's definitely got some of those games left in him. I mean, he's 5,300. You're really playing him. Sure, you can stack him, and we'll talk about a couple guys later, but for the most part, you're playing him so that you can fit everybody else, right? That's what you're doing here. I love the Trubisky call. He was on my list too, but I think Fitzmagic, he's right there. He could easily, get you 25 points and let you pay up for everyone else.
Yeah, I love Fitz too, and I think that not only do I love Fitz as a quarterback, but his receiving options too are always good because he doesn't care who's covering who. He's just going to throw it. He doesn't care. He could throw 4 picks in a row. If he thinks his guy's open, he's throwing a 5th pick. You know what I mean? He doesn't care. So it kind of helps out your other receiving options as well because he's not going to shy away from anybody. He's going to throw them at him. He doesn't care. So yeah, Fitzmagic is definitely a good value there as well.
And he will run too. Even at his age, if he sees that 4-yard run by the goal line, he'll take off. Yeah,
I think at one point last year, it was maybe week 5, week 6, week 7, something like that. He was the leading rusher for the Miami Dolphins, which is just terrible to think about. It's hilarious.
Yeah, man. He just goes, man. He's just having fun.
Yep, exactly. At his age, he's just whatever. So I got one guy on my value list, but I know Jason's wants to talk about him a little bit as well because he's got him as his cash game quarterback. So I'm gonna leave him for you, Mr. Ty God.
Yeah, man, I like Tyrod Taylor. People are like, "Oh man, why him?" I'm like, well, he's 5,600. I only need him to get me 15, 16 points in catch games. He has a rushing upside of 30 to 40 yards. To equal. So he can get that with his legs. And then as well, if you think about it, the Chargers, they're gonna play the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals last year, they're one of the top fast-paced teams with Taylor's offense. So Zack Taylor, he doesn't mess around. He moves the ball fast, and they're going to go faster and faster. So I like Tyrod, but another guy I had on my list as a value as well was Jimmy G. So you can include him in that tier. But I mean, I like Tyrod or Tyrod, as you like to call him. And I don't know. I just don't see how he doesn't reach 15 points, 16 points. That's all I need. I'm not trying to pay up at quarterback. I'm trying to get my salary to another position where it's important, like running back or wide receiver.
Yep.
So that's all I care about.
Yeah, agreed. And there's one more guy that we hadn't talked about yet that was mentioned in the chat, and I wanted to bring it up. I'm going to get your thoughts on him first, Tim. Mr. Cam Newton. What are your thoughts on Cam Newton this week? Are you playing him?
No, I'm not. I'm actually going the other way. We'll talk about this later, but I'm actually going on. I'm going to have a lot of Miami defense because I am not seeing how this New England team is going to come together. I want to see it before I believe it. I really do.
Yeah.
Some of the reports out of camp is that he was just locking in on receivers, right? And if you're doing that in the NFL, you're going to get picked off. It's going to get taken to the house. So, can they score points? Yes. Do I think that I'm confident enough to play them? No.
Yeah, I think the thing with Cam that I don't like, especially for tournaments, is that you can't stack them with anybody. You don't know who you to stack them with. Is it James White?
Yep.
Is it Julian Edelman? Is it Nikhil Harry? Is it one of those tight ends that they have there, the rookie tight ends? So that's my beef with Cam Newton. I do think he's got a solid floor. I think he's got a limited ceiling, though. Gerson, what are your thoughts on Cam Newton? I saw you shaking your head over there.
I just don't want to play a quarterback that really doesn't have a stack. Like, if I'm trying to win a GPP, I want the highest upside with my wide receiver and tight end. What, you going to play Julian Edelman, Nikhil Harry?
Yep.
Yeah. I'll tell you my other beef with Cam is that part of what made him so valuable in the past was that he would get those goal line carries. And I think New England, especially in the beginning, is going to try and run the ball a lot. They're going to have Burkhead, they're going to have James White, they're going to have Sony Michel, and they're going to try and take those carries that Cam would have previously gotten that made him so valuable, right? Am I saying he can't dive over the end zone for a touchdown? Sure, that could happen, right? But they're not going to be those design plays from the 3 and the 4 that made him a fantasy star and an MVP.
Agreed. All right, we spent enough time on the quarterbacks here. Let's go ahead and get to the tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, Gerson, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Some of your top-tier tight ends, and there's like one there that I really like a lot. I don't know if you got them on your list as well.
Aidan Hurst, it's not a mystery. Everybody knows I've been hyping this guy up all off season, fantasy football, dynasty, everything I love about it. His situation, just they traded him for a second rounder. I mean, eventually, everybody's worried about Jamal Adams. I'm not worried about Jamal Adams. I think Jamal Adams is more of a box safety. He's kind of a blitz safety, he goes down in the box. And if he's going to cover Hayden Hurst, he's going to have work for him. Overall, Jamal Adams is a good cover safety, but they're going to need more help than that because you got Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones on the outside. Overall, he's going to be a great play for me. I'm trying to stack him with Matt Ryan, which was one of my other quarterbacks that I really like this year in this slate. But they let Austin Hooper walk for a reason. They traded for him. I think he's going to get targeted this week. He's 5,200, and right now on the tight end, he's coming about. Let's see. He has 7% ownership. So if I can get him and stack him with Matt Ryan, that's a different way. I want to be different without Calvin Ridley or Julio Jones.
Yeah, I like it, and I think if he gets that kind of volume that they saw last year with Austin Hooper, Austin Hooper last year before getting hurt, I think was the number 1 tight end in the NFL. And I think that if he gets even close to that kind of volume at his price point, he's definitely viable for sure. Tim, what about you? Who do you got in your top tier here?
Well, Hayden Hurst is actually a great transition because him leaving Baltimore has opened up even more volume for Mark Andrews. And he's my favorite tight end play on the week. I think Hayden Hurst and him are very close, but I'm going to go ahead and take Mark Andrews because in the 2 games against Cleveland last year, he had 8 and 9 targets. And in one of those games, he had 27 fantasy points. So he's $6K, so you get a $1,200 savings over your boy George Kittle, who I definitely think is viable as well. But for the combination of price and upside, give me Mark Andrews. We talked about Lamar Jackson earlier, how much I like him this week. he is probably my favorite option to stack him with, just because I think you can beat Cleveland with tight ends. So, it sets up that stack easily there. And I think a lot of people will be going with Hayden Hurst or some of the cheaper guys, so it also gives you some leverage paying up.
Yeah, I like that. I like that call a lot. I mean, he was one of the breakout stars last year. So, yeah, I definitely love me some Mark Andrews, and he's targeted a lot by Lamar Jackson. And you mentioned my guy, Kittle. We said this every week last year on the podcast, play tight ends versus Arizona. So I think that stands true here. And, of course, if you got Kittle, the best tight end in the NFL right now, and then you got a team without Deebo Samuels, likely without Brandon Ayuk. They're going to be rolling with Kendrick Bourne out there and Trent Taylor. So I think Kittle, if he wasn't already the number one option, he's definitely the number one option now. So I think that, Kittle is definitely a smash play at 7.2 for tournaments. I'm not paying up for a tight end in cash games, but in tournaments for sure, I think his upside is definitely there. He's got a high ceiling. And as long as his game is played, I will say there's a possibility. I've seen it on Twitter that the fires are causing a lot of smoke at Levi Stadium, and if they can't get that smoke cleaned up, they may end up postponing this game. So it's something to monitor as we go through the weekend.
Definitely.
Jason, I know you're like me and you like to pay down at tight end for your cash games, but you haven't talked in a while, and I feel bad just seeing you sit there and messing with your hat. So, is there anybody that you wanted to mention here?
No, I'm just scratching my head at all this knowledge I'm getting right now. You guys are awesome, man. You're doing a good job. So what are we looking at? We want to look at value.
Yeah.
Value. This might gross some people out, but I like Jack Doyle. Trey Burton. He's out. He's injured. He's not gonna. True. What's that backup tight end? Tim, what's Colts backup tight end that everybody loves?
Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mo Alley Cox. Well, last I heard, he's really not that great, but he's awesome. But yeah, I like Jack Doyle. If you like one thing, Philip Rivers likes his tight ends. That's all he throws to. Tight ends, running backs. And he likes his tight ends, and Jack Doyle is the guy, man. He's been there for a while. He knows that system. At 3,600, I think he's a great value, and I think he's going to be high. I like him a lot.
It's going to be an R-rated show here pretty soon. We keep talking about tight ends and Mo Cox. It's going to be R-rated before long.
I think Doyle and Hurst are probably my favorite cash plays at tight end.
Yeah, I like it.
I would say Hurst and then Doyle.
What about Ertz?
It's tough to get.
I like
tough to get.
All right, let's move into the mid-tier where I think there's a lot. I mean, I think this year, especially like even in season long, the tight end position right now is like the deepest it's literally ever been. I played fantasy since 1998, and it's huge right now. And the mid-tier is where you can find tons and tons of value. Tim, I'll go to you first, man. What do you got for your mid-tier values here at tight end?
Well, a big part of this guy's anticipated volume is based on Kenny Golladay being doubtful. And if he is out, I expect T.J. Hawkinson to see increased volume. He's somebody that I wasn't really looking at originally because, as we mentioned, Hayden Hurst is $100 more, and I think he projected better. But if you're telling me that T.J. Hawkinson might now see 8-9 targets and maybe get some of those goal line looks, then all of a sudden he's going to be somebody who should come in lower owned and have another high ceiling. So I think, like I said, I'm going to have a lot of Hurst, I'm going to have a lot of Andrews, I'm going to have a lot of Doyle, but I think the fourth guy will probably be T.J. Hawkinson for me.
All right, and Gerson, I know you had some stuff on Hawkinson you wanted to mention as well. Go ahead and talk about Hawkinson a little bit and give us one of the other mid tiers.
Hawkinson overall to me is just like last year. He had one good week. A lot of people were worried that he's not healthy, but he's healthy. They claim that he's 100%. He's ready to go. He's good for at least 8 targets this week. Hawkinson caught 9 balls in this matchup last year, so I expect him to do a lot better this year with no Kenny Golladay. So no Kenny Golladay and possibly no Amendola.
He's questionable.
No Amendola. Hawkinson is athletic enough to get into the slot position, and they play. I don't know what other tight end they have, but he can go on a slot position. He can go out on the outside too. I mean, he's a big guy. He's fast. He's very athletic. He's kind of like light George Kittle. I don't want to say he's George Kittle, so don't think I said that. But In this game, I love Hawkinson.
Yeah, I mean, Hawkinson's a great play, like you mentioned, because Galladay is out. Amendola seems to always be questionable, going back to his days all the way back when he was the Rams. So yeah, I like Hawkinson a lot. I got a guy that's is in the mid tier as well that I like, Mr. Zach Ertz. You know, I live here in Washington, D.C. I'm not a fan of the Redskins, but I live here in D.C., and he seems to be the Redskins killer. I mean, he seems to always have a huge game against the Redskins. I know they got Goddard there, but I do think with some of the injuries that they have at receiver, I think Zach Ertz at 5.8 is the steal. He's at an elite tight end with a mid-tier price. So give me some Zach Ertz as well.
I would like to apologize in advance. We do not say that word. It's the Washington football team.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was the first one guilty of it right here, and I listen to it every day on the radio too. It's crazy. Is there anybody else? I know. Let's see, Tim. I think you got one more guy on your list that we haven't talked about yet, and I want you to get to him because he's kind of interesting as well.
Oh, is that the return of Rob Gronkowski?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yeah, this play I think becomes even more interesting again because of an injury to Mike Evans. I'm interested to see. You know, he's not the same Gronk. Obviously, he once was. It's like half of him if you've seen any of the pictures. But I still think that one thing that does travel is that connection, right? When Tom Brady gets into the red zone, he's going to look up and see where's Gronk. I think that there's I don't expect him to have a high yardage game, but the reason I included him is because he may get a couple of end zone looks, especially if Mike Evans is not, as anticipated not to be available. So if they get down in that red zone, man, and, if you're talking, he could get 4 for 34 and 2 touchdowns, and, it's obviously a high look, but that's what you're looking for in a tournament, right? Somebody like that that can get that kind of, upside at a low ownership. So I don't think Gronk will be owned. I think most people are going to skip over him because he's 4,900 and he's kind of awkwardly priced between, like you said, the Zach Ertz and Mark Andrews, and then like the Hayden Hurst, TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, good call there. We had a question. It's not tight end related, but I want to get to it before we go to the break. And Gerson, I'm going to go to you on this one. It's from Matt Sandell. He's got a sit-start question actually for fantasy. Marvin Jones Jr. Or Christian Kirk. Which of those two guys are you starting?
Oh, Marvin Jones Jr. in a heartbeat. I'm not. It's just volume. He's going to get so much volume. Christian Kirk, I believe the volume's not going to be there as much as Marvin Jones with Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, and Kenyon Drake. I think I love Marvin Jones.
All right, so let's get to these value tight ends now. First, there's a guy that's on your list on the mid-tier that I have as a value. I've been talking about this guy all summer, so I'm done talking about him, so I want you to talk about him for me. Mr. Irv Smith Jr., talk about him a little bit.
You broke out on me, but I believe you said you want me to break down Irv Smith Jr.?
Yes, Irv Smith Jr.
Okay. Irv Smith Jr., to me, he's one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. Came from Alabama. Overall, he just about to break out. He's one of the best breakouts this year. I've seen you target him everywhere, Geoff, so I know you love him. So Irv Smith Jr. with Kyle Rudolph last year, they have very similar stats. I think this is the year he's going to break out against the Green Bay Packers. Overall, with his name, Stephon Diggs not being there no more, there's going to be more target distribution all over the place, and Irv Smith Jr. should step into either a slot role, he can step in on the outside, he can step in all over the place, and they've been hyping him up. I mean, they're ready for him to break out. And overall, he's cheap. He's not expensive.
3.1, I think.
Yeah, 3,100 versus the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I think this game has very, very sneaky upside to be a shootout. A lot of people don't realize, but Minnesota's defense is not good. It's not that good no more.
They had opt-outs, and then they had an injury, too, just recently, too. A linebacker, I believe, got injured.
Yep. And then Griffin left, yeah. They took a big step back this year. Hey, one thing I will add to that is that the Packers are not good. If the one place is to beat them, it's over the middle, right? They have good corners, but you can beat them with running backs and with tight ends over the middle. So if you're telling me, like you said, he's going to see more volume in this offense, and those, I expect them to be fairly easy targets over the middle, he could easily be a 6 for 75 guy and pay off without getting a touchdown.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I think that's how you attack the Packers.
Agreed.
So,
and Jason, I got to wake you up over here. Give me some of your cash game quarterbacks.
My cash game, what?
I mean, you're cracking tight ends.
I was like, bro, we going back or what? My cash game tight end. So I already said Jack Doyle earlier on. Other one would be Hayden Hurst. We talked about him enough. He's a great cash game. If you really want to pay down, you can go Chris Herndon. Right now, the Jets are very limited. They Denzel. They don't really have any wide receivers there, and also just to put it in perspective, let's say Chris Hogan might be the starting wide receiver. So if he's going to be the starting wide receiver, and we got Chris Herndon here, I like him. He did great. I think he got like well over 600 yards. He got a lot of receptions. Sam Darnold looks for him, and he likes him a lot. There's a lot of chemistry there. He likes him in training camp, and that's who I like at 3,300. So for volume and usage, I like him there. I'm Jason. I don't trust him. If he's just annoying and he just sucks at recognizing his Kenny Andre. And, so, I like Chris Herndon at 3,300. You can save a lot of money. And, like we said, you can save money at tight end. Tight end is a position where you probably want to save money. You don't really want to pay up for it in cash game because it's just say you pay $7,200 for
Kittle.
And he has an average. You pay $7,200 Kittle. Yeah, you can go up 100 more. Get Devonte Adams, and he has like a 25-point game. So you gotta figure out where your money. I like him a lot.
All right, yeah. Sorry, guys. Jason's connection is pretty bad there. I hope y'all got that. Chris Herndon.
A little bit,
yeah, he's breaking up a little bit, but I think everybody got the gist of it. Chris Herndon is definitely a good play there if you want to go cheap. All right, guys. Real quick, we're gonna pay some bills. When we come back, we're gonna talk running backs and receivers. So hold tight. What's up, everyone? Geoff Lambert here, and I want to tell you about Society Socks. Is your sock drawer kind of boring? I know mine is. Society Socks is a men's sock subscription company that sends 2 pairs of exclusively designed socks to your door every month. These socks are made of a warm, soft, and comfortable blend of combed cotton, guaranteed to make your feet feel and look great. At the office or the bar, your socks are sure to be a hit. You might be wondering, why are they called Society Socks? Well, that's the best part. Socks are one of the most needed and least donated items at homeless shelters. Society Socks aims to change that. With every pair of socks purchased, another pair of socks is donated to homeless shelters. So on top of receiving awesome socks every month and amping up your sock drawer, you are actively making a positive change in society. With 2 surprise pairs of socks arriving at your door every month, you'll begin to grow an impressive sock collection. Visit mysocietySocks.com/armchair and enter our promo code ARMCHAIR to get 50% off your first subscription. Put an end to boring socks and subscribe today. Again, that's mysocietySocks.com/armchair and use promo code ARMCHAIR. All right, welcome back, guys. Tim, what was that clap for there?
I want to officially congratulate you on being big time now.
Yeah, I got sponsors now.
There.
Yeah, I got sponsors now. I got to do live reads and such. And I got another one at the end of the podcast too. I got to do. So yeah, we're getting big time now.
Pretty sure you'll have Manscaped on here.
Yeah, it'll come eventually. I hear that one on every single podcast. So eventually we'll get there. All right, guys, let's get to these running backs.
Jason needs it.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into the running backs here. Of course, it's the money position. Tim, I'll go to you first here. Give me some of your top tier running backs.
And I think the first decision you have to make this week is whether or not you're going to play Christian McCaffrey. And I think that's how it is a lot of weeks, but I think this week more than ever. Because at 10,000 on DraftKings, you're assuming that his role is close to what it was last year. And, because it's going to require him to get at least 30 points to pay that off. And can he do it? Can he exceed that? Of course he can. But that's a lot of role for him to project. So I think if you're playing cash, Jason, we'll talk about this here in a minute, but I think you almost have to play Christian McCaffrey in cash. But I think in tournaments, I think there's a legitimate argument to have low exposure to him or, to try and get some advantage on the field.
Yep, I love it. Gerson, what about you? Are you paying that for Christian McCaffrey?
In GPP, no. In cash game, yes. I've done some research, and a lot of analytics background have said that Christian McCaffrey in the last year Millie Maker, he was only 1.6%. DraftKings rosters and the Millie Maker top roster. So you don't really need Christian McCaffrey to take down a GPP. And to give you a wider ideal, he was only in almost, I think it was 10.6% of the top 20 roster in all last year's Millie Maker roster. So, in the top 20. So, overall, you're paying for the money. You're paying a lot of money. I think this Raiders defense has improved this year. A lot of people, they made a lot of signing. They signed 2 linebackers. They got depth at the defensive line. They got depth in the defensive and the safeties. I don't really consider what's his name. Heath, the guy from Heath, from Cowboys or something like that. But overall, I think this defense is going to be a little bit more fearful than what they were last year. But you got to pay for Christian McCaffrey. That's $10,000. There is value this week, but with the whole Marvin Jones value, I think that opens it up and makes you a little more flexible. But if I'm going to pay him, I am going to play him in GPP, but I won't have high exposure. That's what I'll say. But overall, my 150 rosters in the Millie Maker I'm going to have this week, I'm going to limit my exposure on him. I'd rather be contrarian and go to these other running back areas.
Good stuff. So
Can I make 2 points real quick on Christian McCaffrey before we move on?
Go ahead.
All right. One is that Teddy Bridgewater, throughout his career, is Teddy checkdown, right?
Yep.
So a lot of people are projecting that for DJ Moore, but I think it's obviously going to impact Christian McCaffrey as well. 2 is Joe Brady is obviously is taking over offense for them. He is, we saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year. They will feature running backs in that offense. They will find ways to scheme him to get the ball. So I do project that he will still be the feature point of that offense. It's just at $10,000, I do want to see it a little bit before I commit to him, especially heavily in GPP.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So, Jason, I know you got CMC as one of your cash game running backs here, but you have one more on your list here that I want you to talk about.
Yes, I do. I like Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, yeah, he's 7,200. You can pay for him and not worry about it. He gets those receptions. Now, you might not get a lot of rushing yards in this game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers run defense is really good, and he might not get a lot of rushing yards, but it's okay. We'll go with receptions, and he can take one to the house. He's ready to go. Vegas has this game projected very high. It's the Saints are projected to get 26.5 points right now, and a lot of those touchdowns are going to be very concentrated to Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and it's going to go through them. So if I were you, I would get him at 7,200. If you don't want to pay up for him at cash game, that's up to you. But it's okay. I'm never going to do that. I'm going to pay for CMC. I'm going to run with it. But if you want to pay up for someone else or pay down, it's Alvin Kamara.
Love it. I love it. And only one more guy that I had that I wanted to mention, and I want to get Tim's opinion on this guy as well. But Mr. Dalvin Cook at 7.9. He just about murdered the Green Bay Packers last year. I think he only played one game against them, but I think he had his best game of the season against the Green Bay Packers. Tim, do you think your defense has done enough this offseason to slow down Dalvin Cook, you think?
Enough? No. I think that they tried a little bit, but I still think, as I mentioned when we were talking earlier about Irv Smith, that they're still going to be susceptible up the middle. So I think he's still going to eat against them. I think he makes a great play. I definitely could easily see him being RB1 on the week, and you're talking about a 2,100 savings over Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I fully expect Sunday afternoon to be sitting here as a Packer fan and watching Dalvin Cook run all over us. I'm just projecting it, yeah. Whether or not he gets the touchdowns, we'll see.
All right.
But the volume is there.
Good stuff. All right, Gerson, let's move down to the mid-tier. You got 2 guys that are highlighted on your list here. Go ahead and talk about both of them.
I'm going to live in this mid-tier this week. So the guys that I want to, if you're going to mention them, go ahead, go over them. But I'm going to live in the tier of Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Kamara, Austin Eckler. But the 2 guys that Geoff wants me to talk about is Joe Mixon. against the LA Chargers. The LA Chargers last year, they were just really awful. I always remember. There was always a tight end versus Cardinals, and then there was a San Diego Chargers and who they're facing against the running back.
LA Chargers, by the way. I put that money in the jar there.
Oh, son of a gun.
Daddy.
You got me. But yeah, overall, crap, man. You guys got me.
2 in a row.
2 in a row. We're gonna be a lot of donating a lot of money this year.
Yeah, I need to get a drop for it. I looked for it tonight. I didn't get a chance to download one, but I'm gonna get a drop. Whenever we do that, I'm gonna hit the drop.
So I have $2 so far. So Joe Mixon against the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, DVOA had them ranked 25th overall. Joe Mixon should get all the workload now with no, Giovanni Bernard, and he's not gonna touch him. Probably gonna spell him for like the pass catching do sometimes, but Joe Mixon, we've seen what he can do when he gets the workload. Now that he has a better offense, better offensive line, healthy Jonah Williams, right? That's his name, the tackle.
Yep.
Joe Burrow. I'm excited for Joe Burrow. He's actually one of the quarterbacks I am gonna play this week, and overall that offense is gonna take off right up to the. I wouldn't be shocked to the top 10 offense. I mean, they're going to have to score a lot with that defense. I mean, that defense is awful. So Joe Mixon's definitely on my list. The other guy is Austin Eckler. I think everybody forget how great he was. We forget? This guy, Eckler, had 36.4 and 20.3 start to the year, which averaged about 26.7 against the Dolphins in 4 games. And there's no Joshua Kelly. I think Justin Jackson's not playing, right? He's out, right?
Yeah, he hasn't been officially ruled out, but he's definitely doubtful.
Joshua Kelly's behind him. Overall, with him and getting the workload, they've talked that he is the workhorse now. I don't know if you guys seen Twitter, but he's freaking flexing on everybody. He's ready. He wants it, you know? I'm going Austin Eckler in a lot of my lineup with the receiving upside and the rushing upside at 7,700. I think people are forgetting just how good he was without Melvin Gordon in the first half. There's a reason why. I don't know why people were fading him in the second round or the first round. I would have taken off. I got Austin Eckler in, I think I was the 12th pick. No, I was the 11th pick. I drafted him 11th pick.
Nice.
I'm excited for Eckler, man. I think he's still going to be that guy. And I get it. Tyrod Taylor is not Phillip Rivers. He's not checked down. But I'll give you news. Tyrod Taylor, he's going to have to check down because Keenan Allen and then no Mike Williams, he's going to get pressured, and Austin Eckler is going to be the guy that's going to save him. He's actually 7,000, my bad, guys. Yeah. 7,000, and he is coming in at 12% ownership, so I love Eckler this week.
Yeah, I love it too. And Aaron on YouTube just pointed out if we do a jar, that we got to do a jar for whatever I say good stuff. So, but instead of $1, though, we're going to do 50 cents because if we do $1, I'm going to go broke by the end of the season. So, I love it.
Won't let you do the podcast anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be over with. All right. Yeah, I remember last year, I think, didn't we have a drinking game? Whoever said that, I said good stuff so much, they were taking a drinking game, taking shots on it. So, all right. All right. Let's move into Tim. Let's go to you with some of your mid-tier guys you like.
Well, I don't want to skip over Austin Eckler. He obviously talked about him, but I think he's such a good play. He's probably my favorite play on the week. And one thing about him is that he's going to play all 3 downs, right? You don't have to worry about him getting pulled out. Whereas there's some concern about the next guy I want to talk about, and that's Josh Jacobs. I'm obviously going to throw it back to Gerson a little bit on this guy because, he's on the Las Vegas Raiders.
Nice.
But there's some talk in the offseason they're going to give him, more usage in the passing game. I'll believe it when I see it. But if this game goes the way I anticipate, they're going to keep it close. He's going to stay on the field. He's going to get 20-plus touches. He could easily go over that 100 yard, get you that bonus. And then if he gets you a touchdown at that point, it's just, it's gravy. So, 6,800, he's projected to be one of the highest owned running backs on the slate, but I think it's for good reason. He's got one of the most solidified roles outside of the guys we just talked about, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I love it. I got Jacobs on my list as well. I think I think he's got tremendous upside, and they cut some running backs there. They traded away Lynn Bowden, so I think that he will get a lot of the workload there. You know, they cut a bunch of guys. I think they had Theo Riddick at one point, and they cut him. And so, yeah, I do think that Jacobs is going to be a workhorse this year, and I love that call. And Carolina's defense is just terrible. I know they drafted a bunch of guys on defense this year, but I don't think they're going to be very good this year again. So 6.8 for Jacobs is a steal. Yep. Jason, anybody in your mid-tier that you like at running back for cash games?
Well, for cash games, these guys mentioned them already. Josh Jacobs, I like him a lot. I don't know. I guess we'll kind of do a little quick roundtable talk here. What do you guys think about Miles Sanders? Are you guys worried about him? Are you going to play him? Are you going to fade him? Like, what's the strategy there?
I think he's fine. I think that he is being limited right now, but I do think he'll be fine. I think that if you were planning on playing him, I wouldn't not play him because of it. Now, if you were thinking about potentially on the fence about it, then I would probably take it out. But I do think that he'll be fine for this game.
I'm lower on Miles Sanders this week. I was already low on him with the offensive line issues that the Eagles are having right now, but I thought he could still be fine because of his usage in the pass game. But now that they're talking about limiting him, if he's not going to get that usage, then I don't know that he becomes as much of a value as I thought he was early. I think he could still pay off, but the guys like Mixon, Jacobs, Eckler, even one guy we haven't talked about, Kenyon Drake, to me look much more attractive than Miles Sanders at this point. So if it was me and I was previously thinking Miles Sanders and I had an extra $100 in my lineup, I might just go ahead and pivot to Kenyon Drake. Because he played well against the Niners last year. As Gerson said, they're not as good of a defense, and I think his role is a bit more secure. I think we could see Boston Scott. I've seen some people playing. I don't want to jump into the values, but I've seen people talk about playing Boston Scott. I don't think he's a viable play, but I think he could definitely eat into Miles Sanders this week in this substantial way. I think we're going to talk about this here more in a second because we haven't really talked about it much. But I think this is where we're going to see COVID and that kind of environment, training camp environment, the no preseason environment, is show up in week 1. Is there going to be limiting guys that week 3, week 4 are going to be seeing a full complement either of routes or touches that in week 1 they say, okay, we might have given him 15, let's give him 10.
Yeah.
And I think Miles Sanders might be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about another couple here in a minute. Yeah,
and we got Courtney Harden, who I know is a big Eagles fan. He's online right now. He thinks Sanders is fine. Courtney, I'm curious, if you can answer this in the chat room. What are they saying there in Philly? I know you live there in Philadelphia. What are they saying about Miles Sanders? Is he good to go for this week? He's saying that they're going to get a heavy workload. They think that he's going to be good to go. So I'll take his word for it as a Philly fan living in Philly. So if you were planning on playing him, I think I'm still on him, but I will take some caution and limit my exposure a little bit to him. So good call there. I think y'all pretty much took all of mine. I don't think I got any more mid tiers that we haven't talked about already. I do have Raheem Mostert there. I don't know if he's mid tier or if he's more towards value. He's kind of in that sort of tweener. At 5.8, I think Mostert's a good play against Arizona. Arizona's defense is not very good. Mostert, I think, gets a lot of the workload. I do think Jerick McKinnon is also an option there. He's a little bit cheaper. I think he's to be a receiving option. But I love Mostert at 5.8 as well in that mid-tier.
Damn, there's talk about Coleman sitting out the game, too. So definitely keep an eye on that.
Yes, that's true. Coleman is missing time. So, yeah, I think Mostert even more so. I like Mostert. Gerson, you got a smirk over there.
Dan, you didn't want my opinion on Miles Sanders? Jeez, skip me.
I didn't skip you. We haven't got to there yet. You talked about Eckler and Mixon. So you want to talk about Sanders? All right, go ahead. We'll just all talk about Sanders. Go ahead, Gerson.
So here's the way I put this: they're missing the left tackle Dillard, Dwayne, and then the other center that got hurt. I think they're facing the Washington football team. They're not. I mean, they are an improved defense though with Chase Young and everything. But if they, I can see Doug Peterson bringing the carry. Like I understand and respect Courtney's opinion, but I can see him bringing the carry because they're trying to make the playoffs. They're not worried about the Washington football team. They can beat this team just through the air.
Yeah.
And, the ownership is at 18%. So if you want to be contrarian and pay someone like, well, what? Jacob is $6,800, $500 more, and they're going to get high ownership too. I'd rather play Jacob, but you can play Sanders. Kenyon Drake's also in a good spot too. Kenyon Drake killed. He put a lot of work into the 49ers. Did. Like his first game against the 49ers, he came off like what? He got traded, and then that was the first week. He got like 110 yards and like a touchdown or something like that.
Yep.
But overall, I mean, I get it, but let's say I'm one of those people. Like if I'm putting, $750 to $3,000, and Sanders comes up and gets like a hamstring. This is the reason why I always tell people you need to get on Twitter. If you don't have Twitter, you're missing out so much information. Wow. Because on Twitter, you can see the players warm up from like beat writers. I don't know how they're gonna do it this year, but you can see, hey, all right, Miles Sanders looks good. He's running well. He's doing the full drill. Get on Twitter. I'm telling you guys, get on Twitter. Geoff has like 3 million followers, so just go follow his list or whatever. But get on Twitter, and that'll give you a good evaluation how you think Miles Sanders will do that day. But right now, he's highly owned.
Yeah, I think what Gerson's talking about, too, is I have a list. If you go to Twitter, click on my profile, click on the little 3 dots, and you'll see a list you can subscribe to. I've got every verified beat reporter that's, out there in the NFL right now. I got a few people that are just insiders, so you can just kind of swipe over to that list and just follow all the beat reporters on Sunday, and it basically tells you everything you need to know. So, yeah, I think Twitter is definitely the way to go. All right, let's move into the value running backs. This is where we really find some great stuff here, and we're running up against the clock as usual. We always seem to take too long. But we're in the value running back spot. Let me go to you first, Tim. Give me some of your value running backs.
Yeah, so one thing we talked about earlier and is that I think this year, especially week one, it's going to change throughout the season. But I think week one, coaches are going to lean on the veterans. When they drafted, a lot of running backs got drafted this year, right? I think the most high-end round 1, round 2 running backs that we've seen in quite some time, right? And so 2 of those situations were the Colts and the Ravens, right? So Marlon Mack and Mark Ingram at this point both have Jonathan Taylor and J.K. Dobbins kind of looking over their shoulder. I think Mark Ingram is in a more secure spot right now than Marlon Mack is. But I still think for week one, I prefer Mack to Jonathan Taylor. So if I'm looking for somebody that's a little bit cheaper than some of the guys we've been talking about, somebody in that 5K range, I think my favorite guy is Mark Ingram. And then right below him, I would put Marlon Mack. I think that they're both in good positions week one. I think they're still going to be the starters. They're still probably going to get the bulk of the work. That may change, like I said, a couple weeks. But for DFS, we're only worried about this week. And I think this week they get the bulk.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot because you're right. No preseason is going to kind of make things difficult there. Gerson, what about you? What do you got for some of your value running backs?
Well, I think the value of all value this week, and everybody's wondering if they want to play him or not, is Antonio Gibson. He's $4,000. I mean, he's on a Washington football team facing the Eagles. They're going to have to score a lot. To give you an idea, a lot of people probably don't even know who he is. Because everybody looks at the depth chart, they're going to say J.D. McKissick is the guy. Adrian Peterson got traded away. Some douchebag named Darius Guy got to be a douchebag. And then, he's incredible. Just to give you an idea how talented he is, I mean, player A, 226 pounds, ran a 4.39, 17 bench press, 36 vertical, and 123 in broad. That's Jonathan Taylor. Player B, which is Antonio Gibson, 228 pounds, 4.39, 16 bench press, 35 vertical, 118. Very similar, except one of them is getting touted as like the next Ezekiel Elliott. But last season at Memphis, Antonio Gibson totaled 1,104 yards on 71 touches. 71 touches. That's an observed 11 yards per carry, 19.3 yards per reception. And, of course, that was only on 50% of his touches came through the air and a large number of snaps lined up on a slot wide receiver. He's a hybrid running back. So let's say the Washington football team, I almost said it. Holy crap. Football team gets behind, he's going to be out there. It's not going to be J.D. McKissick. It's not going to be Bryce Love. It's going to be him. He's the wide receiver running back that you're going to want to get. I honestly, and I've been targeting, and me and Geoff been in a battle in the Dynasty League trying to get Antonio Gibson from one of our what do you call it? Co-league?
League mates.
League mates. Yeah. We never got him though. He realized how smart we were. If we were on him, yeah.
Yep.
But I love Antonio Gibson this week. He's probably gonna be my highest owned running back because at 4,000, I can pay up everywhere else.
Yep.
So Gibson's my guy this week. I understand people are going to be like, oh, well, he's just a rookie. Well, guess what? The Washington football team is going to be so far behind that he's going to be in there a lot.
Yep. And I think the one thing that's really telling, and Aaron kind of talked about this a little bit on YouTube just now. He just kind of mentioned it in the chat. But when they cut AP, he had a quote that he said they want him to be the guy. They want Gibson to be the guy. So I think that if they're cutting AP and AP knows it and he's seeing it in practice, then they definitely want Gibson to be the guy. So I think at 4K, you can't go wrong. I think he's a free square basically right now. So I think Gibson is definitely in there. Jason, is there any?
That's so funny, Geoff, because I was literally just going to say I don't think that he's a free square.
You don't think he's?
I don't. I was going to make 2 points on Gibson, and that was one of them. Is that yes, he projects to see a good amount of volume, but I don't think he's the free. I mean. First thing is that DraftKings obviously raised the floor, right? So he's 4K. He previously probably would have been 3K. And at 3K, I think he's a free square. But at 4K, I think there's enough viable options that are close enough to where you could say. Now, one thing that this is the other point I was going to make, is that if you do Christian McCaffrey plus Antonio Gibson, right, that's 14K. And if you look at something similar, like, say, Josh Jacobs and Austin Eckler, that's 13.8, right? So you have to be able to say, can they have the same projectable floor and the same projectable ceiling when you're looking at those two combos? And I think for cash, I would take obviously Gibson and McCaffrey, but for GPP, I don't know that I could see him scoring 20-plus points. And even at 4K, if he lets me get everything else, I still cannot take a 12 if he gives me 12. Where in cash games, if he gives you 12, you're okay with it.
Yeah, good point.
That's my take on him.
Good point.
So for both ownership regions and because I think that he doesn't have much of a floor, in tournaments I prefer Chris Thompson. That's just me personally. He came with Gruden and that offense. He has the experience, and we know that he's got the same role in a pass catching, but I think that he is more, like you said, I think that he probably projects to get more targets, in my mind, in this game script than he could. Because I could see Washington keeping it close and then not having to throw the ball a ton to him, and then maybe he doesn't get a ton of carries, right? And then you're looking, like I said, like I think he could realistically give you 10 to 12. In a tournament, that's not going to get it done.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Jason, I know you got a point, though. I can just tell you wanted to talk. So let's go ahead. You talk about Gibson, too. We'll just all talk about him.
First off, Tim, you're my brother, man. That was fire, man. That was awesome. That was good stuff. That's the good GPP mindset. You need to think, hey, am I going to get two players and they're going to get me this much? Or can I get two other players and get me more of a higher ceiling? So if we can go back to Antonio Gibson, yes, he's projected to get like 8 to 15 touches. That's good enough. 4K, that's awesome. But to me, I like Gibson for cash games, but in GPP, you can pivot. And I think you can pivot to Chris Thompson. Now, Ozigbo or whatever his name is, I don't know, he's the running back for the Jaguars. They signed him for like 3 days, and then they put him on the IR. I don't know what that's about. And now all we have now is Raquel Armstead has COVID. Right. And then on top of that, what's his name? We have James Robinson.
The rookie.
And Chris Thompson. 2 running backs. They're going to get all the touches. And trust me, if they're going to be behind, and they're going to play the Colts, and the Colts are going to play ahead. And they're going to have to keep up with them. And I can see Chris Thompson he can run the ball, and he can catch the ball. So he can easily get he can get about 15 touches. And in that offense, he's going to Gardner Minshew is going to be looking for him. And Gardner Minshew is mobile, so he can find him. So to me, I think it's a great pivot. In cash games, I'm going Gibson. I don't care. I'm just going to lock it and then just just pay up somewhere else,
Yep.
He's a free square, yes. But in GPP, he's not a free square. If you can pivot from him and you can find better play somewhere else, go ahead and do it. So that's what I think, and I like it. And Tim, man, that was awesome. I like that. That was great, man.
Good stuff. Yeah, so I actually had Chris Thompson as my sit call of the week until I saw that literally he was everywhere. I mean, y'all had him on your list. I heard him on podcasts, so I had to take him off my sit call because he was no longer a sit call. He's pretty much going to be pretty highly owned at least. All right, guys, we are up against the clock. We already passed an hour. We haven't got to the receivers yet, so let's go ahead and get into the receivers now.
And now, wide receivers.
All right, let's go quick fire here, Tim. Give me some of your receivers this week, some top tier guys.
Yeah, man, Drew Brees at home. You got to throw it to somebody. Who's he going to throw it to? It's going to be Michael Thomas. No receiver in the league, I think, has bigger splits, and for that reason, right? Averaging something like 28 points at home. Yes, he's 9K, so you almost need him to get those 28 points. But we were just talking about Christian McCaffrey, right? Who are you paying up for? So if you're making that decision, I don't want to be on Christian McCaffrey. I'd rather pay up for Michael Thomas and save the $1,000. Could he get you those same high-end 40 points? Absolutely.
Good.
So he's my favorite receiver. He's a lot to pay up for. You got to find the money. In tournaments, I think that he will be lower owned than he probably should be.
Good stuff. All right, Gerson, you got your highlighted receiver there. Give me your thoughts on your highlighted guy there.
Tim, you said who we're paying up for? Julio! That's who I'm paying up for. Julio Jones, baby, this week. Lock it in. I love Julio this week against the Seattle Seahawks. Overall, I think the Seattle Seahawks defense is going to regress this year. They're going to let Russ cook, so it's going to be a very good correlation back and forth. Give me Julio all day, every day. I'm calling it, man. 100 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Nice. Oh. And Jason, you got one elite guy in your list here of cash game guys. Go ahead and talk about your other receiver.
Yes, Devonte Adams, man, 7,300. That's way cheap, man, for all the volume he's going to get with the Green Bay Packers. Packers don't have anybody. Yeah, Alan Lazard, whoopie-doo. Yeah, I can't even pronounce that tight end. Whoopie-doo. They don't really have anybody. To be honest with you, Aaron Rodgers is going to look at him, and if anything, they're going to target him, and they did last year. If he would have played 16 games, he would have been the best receiver last year over Michael Thomas. But that's where I'm at. I like him at 7,200. He's my favorite cash game wide receiver. I like him a lot.
Good stuff. I'll keep it quick and short here so we can move along. My one guy that we hadn't talked about yet is Chris Godwin. Obviously, if Mike Evans is out, I like Chris Godwin even more. I do think he gets plenty of volume there as probably the top receiver in that offense. So Chris Godwin at 7.1 is just criminal. I think you can lock him into some of your lineups there and be happy with that. Moving to the mid-tier, Gerson, who do you got for your mid-tier receivers?
Mid-tier receivers, I have DJ Chark. Well, I actually have notes on him, very good notes. Sorry. You guys are going too fast for me. Calm down. Slow down.
We're already over an hour, man. We can't go too much longer.
All that time we saved was for no reason. Gerson's going to take it up.
No, DJ Chark. So basically, right now we're dealing with no backfield up in the Jaguars. They're going to pass the ball. They're going to fall so far behind against the Colts. Colts defense is actually pretty. I think they're an elite defense this year. With Gardner Minshew there, he targeted him a lot last year. They had a really good rapport. I think DJ Chark at 6,300. He's going to get more targets than anybody on the team. He's gonna break out this year, and I want to target him early before he actually breaks out to the next price tier, like DJ Moore and all those top guys. But give me DJ Chark. I'm all over him. I think they're gonna be playing catch up the whole game.
All right, Tim, who you got for your mid tier?
Well, my favorite play going into this week is no longer a play, and that's Kenny Golladay. I think he just set up so well against that Chicago defense. They're just not what they were. And so now we're going to talk about a guy who's projected to replace a lot of that volume, and that's starving Marvin Jones, man, MJJ, 5,500. He's somebody that I wasn't really looking at until today, but like I said, at 5,500, I think he becomes an immediate almost value. He's kind of priced in the mid-range, like I said, at 5,500, but his projected value means he should be projected volume means his price should be closer to 6,500 at least. So I really like Jason's call with Devonte Adams, by the way. Obviously, I'm a Packer fan. You think I'm a little bit biased, but his volume is that of an 8K plus receiver, and he's 7,300. So I like the Julio call as well. But if they were the same price, I don't think it would be wrong. And so you do get them a little bit of a discount.
Nice. And Jason, you got 3 guys here listed as your mid-tier cash game. Just list them real quick for us and tell us who you got.
All right. Calvin Ridley, 6,100. Adam Thielen, 6,700. And Allen Robinson, 6,500. What did Robinson and Thielen have in common? They're volume receivers. They're going to get a lot of reception. This is DraftKings. He always wants those catches. That's 1 point. That's all we need. So that's who you're looking at. Those are concentrated targets. They're going to them. And if you don't believe me, Allen Robinson got over 150 receptions last year. So take that and run with it. He's gonna get it.
150 target, not reception. If you got 150 receptions.
Record. I love Allen Robinson, too. It's a great call.
Yeah, I love it, too. And I actually had that Galladay, Robinson, Matthew Stafford stack until Galladay got ruled out. So I think that's a great call there. The one guy that we haven't talked about that I had in my mid-tier, and he got mentioned in the chat quite a bit by Jared Good, and that's DK Metcalf. I love DK Metcalf. I actually have him in my top 12.
You have him as your number 9 receiver this week, Geoff. You'd love you some DK Metcalf.
I love me some DK Metcalf, and I mentioned this a couple times on my season-long show. Is DK Metcalf last year was top 7 in red zone targets, not just red zone targets, but end zone targets. So he had a bunch of passes in the end zone that he didn't catch. And I think that kind of reverts this year, and he ends up catching those passes, and I think he's going to crush it. He's playing against Atlanta. I think it'll be a pretty high-scoring game. DK Metcalf at 5.8, I think, is just a steal. So give me some DK Metcalf. All right.
One other guy I want to mention.
Go ahead.
While we're in that range, last guy. Actually, 2 guys. I'll be real quick. One is Odell Beckham. I think he's finally healthy. I think that they're going to get behind. They're going to have to throw the ball. Jarvis Landry is not 100%. Normally, in this case, I would put in Jarvis Landry, but I think that this could be a week that we see Odell Beckham break one. So I think you can get him as a run-back candidate in your Lamar stack. And number 2 is Terry McLaurin. You can call him F1 or Scary Terror, whatever you want to call him, but I'm not afraid of Darius Slay. I think he's going to run all over him. Slay was getting beat in camp, all camp long. Everybody was killing him. So I think we're going to see that carry into week 1. We know Dwayne Haskins likes to throw it to him whether he's open or not. So I think we could see 8, 9 targets for a guy that's 5,600. If he breaks one long, he's gone. He's paid off your salary.
Nice. And I live here in Washington, and there's some controversy over his name. He didn't like Scary Terry. He didn't like F1. There is a nickname out there now that he does like. He gave a stamp of approval on, and they're calling him Scorin' McLaurin is his name now. So that's his nickname for this year, Scorin' McLaurin.
There you go.
All right.
Well, he's going to be scoring this week, so you want some exposure to him.
Definitely. All right, let's move into the value tier. Gerson, you're back from your little hiatus there, bathroom break. Give us your value tiers.
Shut up. I think everybody's going to be playing him this week. I don't think anybody's going to be playing him this week. Sorry about that. Preston William is my value this week. I love Preston William. I've always been a big fan of him. He came out of the draft last year. He had character issues or off-field issues. So he was supposed to be like a first-round talent wide receiver. But, last year he tore his ACL, which sucks because Williams was out-targeting Devontae Parker 60 to 52 in the first 8 games with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Guess who's the quarterback now? It's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Stephon Gilmore is going to match up with Devontae Parker. And Devontae Parker is kind of banged up, so he's going to lock him up. So who's going to get all those targets? It's going to be Preston William for sure. He's only 4,500 on DraftKings, so lock him up. I know everybody else is going to play the other guy. This is my contrarian, low-own wide receiver, but everybody else is going to have those other 2 guys they're probably going to mention right now.
Good stuff. Tim, we'll go to you. Give me one of your mid-tier or your value guys.
Well, sorry, I'm just going to go ahead and name them both since Gerson just alluded to it. And that's going to be the 2 highest, in my opinion, or, 2 highest owned wide receivers on this slate are going to be Hollywood Marquise Brown and Deshaun Jackson. Yeah. Because both of them fit into that mold of where people are looking to pay at wide receiver this week. Djax at 4,900, Hollywood at 5,100. Both of them project as values. Both of them could easily see 15 plus, and they both have that home run potential. Obviously, people have talked about it all week. Djax narrative street, right, going against former teams. Also, Djax in week 1. The Eagles wide receivers are a little bit banged up. I think they're supposed to get Rager back, but that doesn't make me hesitant to play Deshaun Jackson. I think in tournaments, both of these guys, you have to make a decision. Can I take it? Right? Am I willing to go into this either under or overweight on the field on these two guys? Because I think if you try and match the field and come in at 20%, then you're not really doing anything, or 25%, right? I think you either got to come in at like 5 or 10% or like 50, right? That's just my personal opinion. You can obviously do what you want. But I think one of these two guys, if not both of them, are going to break out, and you got to have some exposure or, risk.
I love it. I love it. Jason, is there anybody left? I think we talked about most of your cash game guys, but go ahead and list who your cash games are.
No, those are, you got to make a choice. Like Tim was saying, you got to make these choices. And in cash game, I'm going to Deshaun Jackson all the way. I like Deshaun Jackson. He's boomer bust, but in reality, the Washington football team, they just don't have a defense on defensive backs. They don't have any good corners. And Tim, did you mention it that Kendall Fuller's hurt? Did you say that?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Kendall Fuller, their cornerback, which is their best corner, he's hurt and he's out. So now Deshaun Jackson's going to be left free. Jalen Reagor is not going to play. He's going to play limited snaps. He's not going to play a lot. So I like Deshaun Jackson a lot. Marquise Brown is another great pick, like Tim said. I like him a lot too. But to me, I just like Deshaun Jackson a lot in cash games, which is why I like in cash.
And Alshon Jeffrey is out too. I don't know if we said that or not, but he is out. So that's another big thing right there. All right, so I got a couple guys I wanted to mention real quick, and I'll just do this really fast. Kendrick Bourne, now that Debo has been officially ruled out, Kendrick Bourne was actually pretty good last year. He just caught touchdowns. Unfortunately, he dropped some pretty key passes for us, but he did catch touchdowns, so I think Kendrick Bourne's definitely viable. Steven Sims Jr. as a sort of a Terry McLaurin sort of pivot. If you want to get that exposure to that game, I don't know why you would want exposure to that game, but he did have a pretty good end to the year last year with Haskins. His last 4 games, he had 7 targets, 11 targets, 10 targets, 8 targets. So that rapport is definitely there with Steven Sims Jr., and they've been raving about him a lot here in Washington. And then the last guy I have is Nikhil Harry for the Patriots. Cam Newton loves those big receivers, those Devin Funchesses, those Kelvin Benjamin type. I think Nikhil Harry fits that role, and I think that he's actually more athletic and a little bit better receiver than those guys were. So I like Nikhil Harry at 4.4.
Jeff, just give up on him.
I'm not giving up on him, man. I'm not doing it. It's only the second year.
Year two for Harry. This is the year.
Yep, this is the year.
I have to mention this because this is going regarding the Mike Evans news. Scotty Miller is one of the wide receivers. He's $4,000. He's been one of Tom Brady's favorite targets in the offseason. Been hyping him up. Tom Brady himself has been saying Scotty Miller is the guy. So he's 4,000. So keep an eye on that. If he starts, he's going to be a value, and his ownership's going to go higher and everything. Yeah,
and there's one more guy that we talked about pre-show that we didn't mention now, but Mr. Quinta Cephas. If he fills in for Kenny Golladay, I do think that that's a very, very sneaky option. He'll be definitely super low owned. And then if you're in a dynasty league or a deep redraft league, have him on your radar. I do think he's a pretty good receiver. He'll get the start this week for Kenny Golladay if he's indeed ruled out. So Quinta Cephas is a good one to look at as well. All right, let's get to the stacks.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right, so some of my stacks got blown up, but I'm going to go to you, Tim, first. Give me one of your stacks this week.
If you've been paying attention to me this far, you probably know where I'm going here. And the first stack here is going to be Lamar Jackson. I said my favorite stack partner this week is going to be Mark Andrews, and I'm running it back with Odell Beckham. I think that's one of my favorite stacks this week. I also talked about Hollywood Brown. I think he's definitely in play as well. And then if you want to go for a lower-owned option, since I expect those guys to be pretty high-owned, Miles Boykin, I think, could end up being somebody that could break a long one or two and pay off for you. But my stack's and then the other stack I have here is Drew Brees. Like I said, love him at home. Michael Thomas, and then Chris Godwin. That's obviously one you got to pay up for. So if you want to save a little money, you could also run it back with Gronk.
Nice. I like it. Gerson, you got a stack?
Well, since we have multiple stacks, let me go down my top 10 stacks.
Top 10 stacks.
I put it on the sheet. I did a picture and everything. I've been talking this game up, and I'm telling you guys, I'm going to target this game a lot. I have a feeling this game can be. You guys remember last year when Will Fuller went off? It was the Seattle. It was obviously the Texans versus the Falcons. I have a strong feeling this game can be very high scoring. Matt Ryan, Hayden Hurst, Julio Jones, and DK Metcalf. That's my stack.
Nice. So, yeah, y'all kind of stole a lot of my thunder there. I did originally have the Stafford, Galladay, and I had Cohen because Allen Robinson had been taken by Tim, but obviously now no Galladay, so I'm going to avoid that one. I'm on the opposite side of Gerson with this one. I got Russ, Metcalf, and Julio. Obviously expensive stack, but I do think that's going to be a sneaky shootout game, so I do like that one. Jason, you have any stacks? I know you don't stack in cash games, but just curious if you have any stacks you wanted to mention.
Yeah, because I like to call this my vomit stack. It's Trubisky, Cohen, if Montgomery is out, and Robinson.
Nice.
It's a great stack. That's what won the Millie Maker last year. So
Yeah.
if you want to go ahead and do it, and when you win, just donate me 10% of your money.
Good stuff. All right, let's do sick call.
And now, the sick call of the week.
As always, I got to tell the story of the sick call for those of y'all that haven't heard the story and how this started off. It's been about 3 years now, right? We had a show that the Gerson was sick. I mean, he was like legit flu. He was just not feeling good at all. Come to the end of the podcast, we're picking our defenses, and Gerson comes out and says the Saints. Now, the Saints at this point were historically bad. Like the last 2 seasons before that season, they were historically bad. Me and Tim both kind of laughed at him like, haha, the Saints, you're crazy, you're sick. The Saints go out and end up having
on the road at Carolina, I believe.
Yes, and they had an awesome game. Of course, now they're a pretty good defense. So we named this segment after Gerson. It's our sick call. It's our sort of low-owned, shot-in-the-dark player you're not going to play a ton of, but that could have a big game. So, Tim, give me your sick call.
Well, I wanted to be on brand and pick my NFL alter ego, Cole Beasley, but I'm instead going to pick his teammate, Zack Moss. I think that of any rookie not named Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Zack Moss might have the best chance of winning the starting job in week 1. Devin Singletary has had some fumbling issues in camp, and they've already said that they want Zack Moss to kind of assume that Frank Gore role, which means he's going to get the early down work, but more importantly, he's also should get the goal line work. So I expect the Bills to be ahead in this game. I think that they're going to give him plenty of run. He could end up breaking out for a Clyde Edwards-Helaire type game, and I don't think anybody's going to be on him at 4.4. He gives you a $1,000 savings over Devin Singletary, and I think it's very likely he will outscore him.
Nice.
So if you want a tournament pivot for $400 more off somebody like Gibson, obviously doesn't project as well, but that's why it's a sick call.
Nice. I like it. And I got to give a shout out to Jared on Facebook here. He's been calling this guy's name literally the entire podcast, and I haven't mentioned him. We didn't talk about him during our running back section. But Kareem Hunts, I think, is a great play as well. I think Kareem Hunts, they could potentially get down big to the Ravens, and they're going to have to pass the ball. And I think Hunt is their passing down back. So that's his sick call. Jared Good's sick call is Kareem Hunt. I think it's a great one. All right, Gerson, who's your sick call?
Logan Thomas, Washington football team tight end. I know a lot of people don't even know who Logan Thomas is. I've been touting this guy in the offseason on my fantasy football podcast. Well, not podcast. It's just more like just live Facebook chat and all that stuff. But I love Logan Thomas this week. I mean, it's a tough matchup against the Eagles, but overall, with Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson, who else are they going to pass the ball to?
Yep.
Steven Sims. I mean, Dwayne Haskins is going to do shutdown if he gets pressured, and that Eagles defense is pretty good. And I think Logan Thomas is a hybrid. He's a hybrid breakout quarterback, kind of turning into a tight end. He's very athletic. He's very athletic for a tight end, so I'm going to go him. He's 2,600, right?
Yeah, he's pretty cheap. He's down there.
2,800?
2,800, yep.
2,800? That's way cheap. You can
basically minimum, yeah.
Yeah, basically minimum. But I love him this week. A lot of people, I can't tell you this, but I like right now my stomach is twisted. That's how me talking about this guy is. Like I just like him, and I think he fits that profile of an athletic tight end. And that's what I had a strong feeling of last year. Darren Waller. I called him in the offseason and he hit. This is my Darren Waller this year. I'm not gonna say he can hit the Darren Waller ceiling in week 1, but if he does, I wouldn't be shocked. But that's my sick call of the week. Logan Thomas, tight end for the Washington football team.
All right, good stuff. And Aaron's quick to point out my mistakes. Apparently, I must have said that Cleveland's got to pass the ball to beat Cleveland. So obviously, I meant beat the Ravens. So it's late. I worked all day, so give me a pass here. And Jason, you might have the best sick call of all of us here. Give us your sick call.
My sick call this week, and I need you guys to listen. My brother wins the Millie Maker this week. Boom.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the sickest call.
That's the sickest call right there. If Gerson wins the Millie Maker, we're gonna have a very lavish show next week. That's for sure. All right, let me give you my sick call. Like I said, I had to change it. I had Chris Thompson at one point, but he ended up being sort of not chalky, but a little higher owned than I expected him to be. My sick call is Mr. Justin Jefferson at 4.8. Everyone's saying, oh, he's a third receiver. Bissy Johnson is starting ahead of him, blah, blah, blah. Justin Jefferson played the slot at LSU and dominated. So I think that he fits perfectly in the slot. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to get the ball to him quite a bit. At 4.8 against Green Bay, I do think that Justin Jefferson is a great play, with that team there. So give me some JJ at 4.8 against Green Bay. All right, guys, that wraps up the podcast. As usual, we went long. We went extra long today. We went an hour and a half, so I apologize, but hopefully we gave you some good plays for the week. And for Gerson, for Jason, for Tim, I'm Geoff, and we'll see y'all next week. Got to give it to us, Tim.
That goes.
There it is.